first time on OneSoccer today. That is DREW BECKIE of Atletico Ottawa. But first things first, Drew, your sister's coming home an Olympic champ. How does that sound?
Yeah, truly, I can't believe it still. It hasn't really sunk in, as I'm sure it hasn't for some of the players. But, the first thing you say when you're a young kid is, I want to be in the Olympics. And second thing you say is, I want to win a gold medal. So for her to accomplish that in two different Olympics and to come home with two different medals is fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty special for her. We'll get into the Beckie household dynamics a little later on in the show. But let's talk Atletico Ottawa. And this home opener, I mean, it has to be special, Drew, because it was February 2020 when it was announced that Atletico Ottawa was joining the CPL. February 2020. And here we are, August 2021. We all know why, but it's now that you're having your home opener. How excited are you for it?
I'm very excited. It'll be my second home opener in Ottawa. And that's a special thing. It's a different feeling, different community here in terms of the club and building that brand, but it's a little bit of the same in that capacity. Lansdowne is a fantastic area and TD Place is an amazing place to play. So to have, that many people coming out, and they've waited a long time for this. So that's an exciting time for them as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that, Drew, that you were there in 2014 for the Ottawa Fury's debut. Obviously, now you're back in Ottawa again for the home opener with Atletico. What are kind of your memories of that first home game back in 2014, what the crowd was like, and maybe what this city can be like as a soccer city?
Yeah, if I remember right, we played against the New York Cosmos, and so that brings, all those kind of names that they had, and unbelievable budgets and the type of quality they had. So I think we had maybe close to 20,000 for that game. And it was a really a great atmosphere. We didn't get the result, but it was amazing to be able to say you were there and got to play in that game. And I feel it's the same sentiment when you have the backing of a European club that brings a little bit more name recognition to the club. So that's exciting as well. I think we're getting different fans that we might not have had in the past. And they're interested to see what that means, what the product is. And so that's our job to go out there and kind of fulfill that commitment.
Well, I know that the fans are excited to show their appreciation. Again, they haven't seen you. They got to watch, Atletico Ottawa and the Island games, and then obviously in the Manitoba bubble. Now finally being able to show their appreciation. But you talk about the product on the pitch. One phrase we like to overuse in sports, of course, is must win. But with Atletico Ottawa being winless in their last 5, do you look at Saturday's game as a must win?
Yeah, I don't really like that aspect, but when you look at the table, to stay within playoff reach, yeah, we're always going out there to win. That's no doubt. I'm proud of the guys, how they fought back against Forge last week, especially in the second half when we were down a man, to not give up any more goals. That's an improvement there. And so we look at those small steps of progress, and it'll come, and we have a young team. And I'm still very confident in the future. But, when we're looking at Halifax, I think it's a winnable game. So we're going to go out there and just do just that.
Yeah, well, one of the things we have seen since you guys came out of the bubble, Drew, is there does seem to be a real home advantage in this league. I think it's 7-2-3 for home teams now in 12 games since the end of the bubble. You guys have got, I think, 6 of your next 7 games at TD Place. You're going to get a chance to put a real run together at home. Is that something that you're kind of looking at and focusing on as an opportunity here, maybe to swing the season back in the other direction now?
Yeah, 100%. Being at home is a massive advantage, especially in this country where traveling large distances really makes a difference on the legs. And it's new for a lot of these players. They're not used to that. So being able to sleep in your own bed, cook your own food, that makes a huge difference. A lot of people have talked, the narrative has been, Ottawa had an advantage going to Spain, 2 months there. Yeah, of course, it's definitely an advantage. But we had been 2 months in hotel, and then we came back, did 2 weeks in quarantine, and then did 6 weeks in Manitoba in a quarantine. So the mental aspect of that for myself and young players, or anybody, it's been difficult. So we can't look past that aspect. It's not an excuse, but we're definitely looking forward to being at home.
Drew, it's funny you say that, because speaking to a lot of players, something that pushed them over the edge was as simple as, I just want to eat with my own cutlery, for crying out loud, right? Because like you just mentioned, you're just in a hotel room. That cutlery was the straw that broke the camel's back for so many players that I've been talking to have been away from home for so long. But I'm curious now, what's the meal of choice? When you come home, what's your home-cooked meal that you love?
Oh man, you put me on the spot here. Anything but chicken at the moment. I think we had so much chicken in Winnipeg that I'm done with that. So let's go with just some meatballs, spaghetti and meatballs. Let's make it simple.
Good
All
choice.
right. Okay, nice and simple. Chicken, you're out the window. You're not new to Ottawa, Drew, right? This is actually your third stint, twice. Ollie obviously bringing it up with Ottawa Fury. What was it about wanting to come back to Atletico Ottawa? What is it about playing in the Canadian Premier League that also attracted you to the league? Because you've been a pro for over a decade now. What was it about CPL and returning to Ottawa?
Initially it wasn't in my mindset to come back to Canada. I had spoken to a couple of clubs over the last 2 years, and I wasn't ready to go back. I had been playing. I think I was obviously in the USL, and I had an opportunity to go overseas again to play. And due to COVID, that contract fell through in January, February timeframe. So I was kind of saying, okay, well, what's next? What is the opportunity? And Atletico reached out. And I'm really glad that they did. It was as soon as they did it, was a special project. I knew that I wanted to be a part of that. Having a Spanish background in terms of being around the Hispanic culture for most of my career, it was something that really attracted me here, and to be able to go over to Spain and see what the facilities were like at Atletico, and just be a part of that project, to come and say, okay, we're building this kind of from ground up. It's going to take time, but I've done that before, and so I'm happy to be a part of that process and help younger players.
Mm-hmm. It's a really impressive organization, at least from what I've experienced, Drew. Seeing them, the way they were able to put together a team at short notice in the bubble last year, and actually be pretty competitive, even though they didn't make the Final Four. Then you see what you guys did in preseason as well this year, which looked like it was top class, at least from the outside looking in. What's kind of your impressions been of the Atletico organization and the way they've treated the new club in Ottawa?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head there, Alex. It's a worldwide brand that garners a respect that you have to have. You want to uplift your game, you want to uplift your personality to match that, and that was a big attraction for me as well. The people that having Mista as a coach and his experience has been great to learn from. Everybody in staff is great, from Fernando Lopez all the way up to the head CEO of Atletico. They're always checking in on us. It may not be their number one priority, obviously, but they're always connecting with us, making sure that, maybe the results aren't going our way at the moment, but they're wanting to make sure that we're playing the right way, making sure we have, good reactions on the field. If we are going to lose, we're losing. I don't want to say the right way to lose. That's a bad way to say it, but you're out there hardworking. That's what the brand of Atletico is. And yes, we're on our specific Atletico Ottawa, but we represent something bigger. And so we're trying to uplift that brand.
Speaking of representing something bigger, Drew, inside the bubble, we did see players take a stance and wear the T-shirts. We know that they've been very vocal in wanting to unionize and getting the league to recognize that. Wearing the T-shirts, a huge part of taking that stance there. That's a look inside the bubble before one of the matches that we saw. Where do you stand on the need for a players' union in the CPL?
We're just looking to have a seat at the table. I think I've been quoted on that before. This is not a fight against the CPL. We're very, we have a lot of gratitude toward the CPL because their financial commitment over, not just the last 2 years, but for the next 10 years is immense. For what OneSoccer has done to publicize the league, bring in European games, we're all aware of that and what, is being sacrificed for the greater good. We just want to be a part of those discussions and maybe help make those decisions in the future. That's all we're really looking for. It's not, some people might take a stance of fighting, but that's not in any capacity what I want to do. It's a common voice together because we're building this together. The league wouldn't exist without the players, but the players wouldn't have the opportunity without the owners. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's totally fair, and I think a lot of people feel that way. Has there been any progress since you got out of the bubble, Drew, or are you hopeful that things might start to move on that front in the near future?
I don't know too much information on where we're at this moment. I'm more focusing on what we're doing at a club here and getting some wins, and let those guys deal with it. PFA deal with that. I'm all ears to help in any way I can for either side. This is one common ground. This is not him versus her or her versus whatever it is. It's not a two-man game here. We're together on this. We're building a league together. So hopefully, there's some discussion in the future. But for right now, nothing at the moment.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's great having veterans and voices, like yours, of course, being a part of this. And you're right, it's all about coming together as opposed to one side versus another, that's for sure. But on the pitch, Drew, it's a completely different story. So let's get a little bit back to that right now. But I am curious to get your thoughts on two teams in particular in the West who are battling right now 1 and 2, and that's Pacific and Cavalry in the standings. So Cavalry, they're the perennial contenders. They're the perennial favorites. Pacific making a splash right now, holding on to tops in the standings by an itty-bitty point. Playing against both of them, I mean, who do you see right now as a team that is a little bit more dangerous, if you want to share some of that intel?
Both are great in their respective ways. I think they're totally different teams. Obviously, I've known Bustos for a long time. I got to play with him a little bit in OKC. I've known him from growing up when he was at Vancouver, and he's done a fantastic job getting himself ready for this year. And obviously his results have shown because of that. He's done very well. So their front three are quite dangerous. The way they play in possession, they overload sides. They got their fullbacks high. They're dangerous that way. I'd say they're the more dangerous team going forward. But Cavalry are always organized. They're hardworking. You know what you're going to get. Nash was my assistant coach at Ottawa, so I know he's pushing the guys. And they have a lot of experience too. So there's that good combination there where they can possess the ball, keep it around the back, but they're solid defensively. If I was looking at more of a dangerous team, I would say Pacific at the moment. They've done well against us in that capacity. But what a game that is.
Well, overall, if we look at the league as a whole, who would you say Atletico's toughest opponent is?
I think we've had the most trouble with Pacific in understanding, when they're overloading the outside edges they're playing outside to in. We've had a little bit of trouble with that. That's us, making sure that we're compact defensively. But you've seen they've scored a lot of goals against us. Now, we did have a man down, but we started out well in our last game against them, and they fought back. So credit to them. But I would say they're the most dangerous team and hardest team we've played against.
How about the most difficult individual opponent, Drew, as a defender for you?
Oh, that's a good question. There's been some great players. I really liked how Mo Babuli moved out, for Forge the other day. He did well coming into out. Obviously, Bustos is good, on his left foot coming in from the right-hand side. Very hard to stop, kind of like a different kind of, similar players in the sense that, Robin used to come in for Bayern Munich on the inside, and you knew where he was going, but you couldn't stop it. So
that's right.
For that sense, I'm learning, how Bustos has grown his game has been really nice to see. We're in contact a lot and he's trying to push each other to be better. So those two are, some good opponents to play against. I really like, there's a central midfielder for Cavalry, Latari, I believe his name is.
Latari?
I really liked how Latari, I love him as a young player. I really like how clean he is on the ball, and he was one that stood out to me when we played against them.
Nice pick. I don't think I've heard Latsuri brought up before, so I like that one.
Really?
Yeah,
I liked him.
He's a good young player, for sure.
Some surprises here. Mm-hmm. Our pundits, our analysts, Drew, are a glutton for punishment. They just, even though they want me to ask this question because they're expecting praise, it always ends up going the opposite way. But here's a question for you. Best OneSoccer analyst here. Are we going with Wheels?
I didn't ask for this, for the record.
Are we going with Oliver Platt in a hat? That's our nickname for him, Platt in a hat. That's why I said glutton for punishment, because it always ends up going the opposite way. But I don't know. Maybe you have a favorite, Drew. Or maybe you could say, forget all of them, Andy, you're the best.
Well, Andy, you're on a different level.
That's
You're way up
right.
here. We got
Good
CBT
answer.
Nice answer.
But I'm gonna go with Ollie because he's here. I can earn some brownie points. But you guys are all good. You guys are all great because you need people who are passionate about the game, that care about this, because you're as important as the players in growing this game. And what OneSoccer has committed to is really special. From seeing, for myself, from seeing where the game was in our country 10, 12 years ago to where it is now. It's completely different. And to have all the national team games on here, it's just so easy and accessible for, what is it, $10 a month? Come on, you can't beat that.
There you go. There's our next commercial right there.
The first segment was so nice, we decided to do it twice with Drew Beckie, who's sticking with us here on OneSoccer today. Andy, Ollie, still with you. We need to know what the Beckie household is like, though. I mean, are you and Janine highly competitive? Do you talk about soccer a lot? Do you break down each other's matches? I'm always curious to get inside a family, like be at the dinner table with you guys when you're so successful at your crafts.
It's not as exciting as you might think it is. I don't get to see them a lot. Most of the time it's at Christmas, so we're not even really talking about soccer. But Janine and I are, we FaceTime almost daily. I'm giving her, she wants a rundown on the game, or, moments where I think she could have done X, Y, or Z. But I try not to overload too much. They're doing a lot. So I don't think she's been able to catch a lot of our games, so I don't really depend on her analysis. But yeah, it's exciting to see, at her level, what she's doing. And but when we get home, we're mostly just talking about other things, family stuff, and leave soccer to the side for a little bit.
Got to take a breather. We completely understand it. Let's look ahead to the Canadian Championship, which begins on August 15th, right here, OneSoccer. People can catch all the matches. We're really excited about this. What do you think about the tournament and just kind of, the bracket here and your thoughts on everything?
I'm really excited that the Canadian Championship is back. To have more clubs in and give the opportunity to League One Ontario teams, or whoever was it. I think there's some Quebec teams. That's really exciting. Everyone should have access to this tournament because you never know what can happen, and that's the best part. So it's exciting, I'm sure, for some clubs to have the ability to, York and are going to play TFC and to play CF Montreal. Vancouver's got to play in the first round, so that's pretty cool. I'm really excited to see that game against Pacific. I think it'll be a good one. So I'm really excited for our games. It adds more opportunity for our younger players, and they get to learn what a cup competition really takes.
I know you won't want to get too far ahead of yourself, Drew, and you got a couple of decent hurdles to overcome in the first two rounds. But do you look ahead a little bit to that potential semi against Montreal, obviously Ottawa, Montreal, and how exciting that would be?
Yeah, that'd be great. It's a brand that obviously is known worldwide, Canada-wide. Had some big names play for them. I got to play against them a few times in my time with Columbus, and so it would be awesome. Yeah, we're obviously not looking too far ahead. Some hurdles to go against right now. First Valor and potentially Forge. Yeah. So yeah, we focus on one game at a time right now, especially with the run of form we're in. But that can change real quick. You win a couple games and everything's better, right? Winning solves a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Drew, we know the Canadian soccer community, we're always keeping an eye on what the other one's doing, and we've all been seeing what the Canadian men's national team is doing. They're in the final round of World Cup qualifying, something they haven't done since '97. What do you think the chances are of qualifying for Qatar 2022? And all that talk was about 2026, but they find themselves here in the Oct for 2022?
Well, if you take the Gold Cup for any merit, I think they're right there in the top three. You saw the game against Mexico, obviously the game against Costa Rica. Those are two of the best games I've seen Canada play in a long time, or maybe ever. And that's just credit to the players' commitment, to John Herdman. He's really transformed the mental side of the game for the guys. That's what he is. Obviously he knows the game well tactically, but any conversation I've ever had with him has been, my personal thing is about his, who are you as a person? What are you going to give to the team, outside of the game first that affects us inside, the boundary of play. And you can see how it's changed the mentality of the guys. And even with some key injuries out in those last 2 games, you saw a team that was fantastic.
Drew, you have a story, you know, when you came into the professional game, which is quite similar, I think, to a lot of Canadian players. You know, I believe you went to Germany for a period to train and trial over there. Then you end up going through college. Obviously, now that's starting to change with more opportunities in Canada through the CPL, through the MLS teams. Are you surprised by the talent that's there and the way the national team has accelerated this quickly, now that those opportunities maybe are opening up for more Canadian players to play?
You know, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but it was a matter of time. It just shows that if you give people opportunities to grow within a system that's set up for success, like Alfonso and Jonathan David, those guys that have been over there, there are players here to do that. It's just the access to opportunity that has been really tough for players to get. Yeah. When I went back there in the day, the only reason we went over there is because our coach had connections with those clubs. It was hard, you know, with our citizenship, we were able to get work permits or whatever, however it worked. But there was a lot of hoops to go through. Now, you know, when you're playing for your national team, your ability to qualify for work permits is easier. So obviously getting younger players into the national team, making them eligible for those visas or however it works is important. And I think Canada has done a good job of doing that so far.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, how times have changed. It's so true. But you've been around for, like I said earlier, a decade. What is it that you're still chasing in your career? What is there that you'd like to still achieve?
Oh man, that's a big question. You know, I'll be 31 next month. So it's still, I'm getting older, but I still have a lot of life in my legs, I feel. I want to keep playing. I love where the CPL is going. You know, I'm going to try to be the best player I can as I keep going. You know, that's all I can do is try to help lead the team to success and see where it goes. There's a lot of things that are out of my control. I think earlier in my career, I would have tried to get back in with Canada, but those days are gone for me. But I'm always going to still strive to be a better player every game, every week, every year. And, you know, I've seen some of my teammates play till they're 36, 37. I don't know if that's in the cards for me, but we'll see if that transition into some kind of coaching in the future. But for now, I'm just focused on playing.
Future OneSoccer pundit, maybe?
Hey, you never know. Janine did it for TSN, so I got to show her up, right?
That's right. Yeah, she's very good.
Just saying, the door just might be open. But I do want to end on this. Well, as long as you just keep flattering me. I mean, really, you're playing your cards right here.
Right, the boss.
What's the best advice? What's the best advice you've received from a coach? I mean, I'm assuming it's a coach. Maybe it was somebody else. I don't know. But when it comes to your playing career, what's the best advice you got?
Oh, I think in these moments, players try to be revolutionary with their advice. The best advice that I've heard is just be a 6, 7, or 8 out of 10 every day. You know, and people and coaches say that, but it's really difficult to do when you're a young player or whatever you're doing in life. You know, some days you're a 2, some days you're a 10. So to find that consistency, that's the best advice I was ever given. Is just do what you do well and try to be a 6, 7, or 8 out of 10 on a daily basis, and you'll have success.